Here's to whiskey kisses, the peaty taste of sin.
Greetings, whiskey folk, and welcome to a very relaxed episode of Drinking Out Loud. I am your host as ever, Adam Bradshaw. It's a pleasure to have you back here on the official Dram Association YouTube channel. And we're going to be talking about something that I have no real right to be talking about. Hockey. Or as I would call it, ice hockey. You might have noticed I'm wearing a Toronto Maple Leafs top. Jersey top? I don't know. Uniform? I don't know what you call this. Either way, I bought it when I was living in Ontario to use as an outer layer of pajamas, because never in my life did I realise that there was a need for a second layer of pajamas until I moved to Ontario. I know very little about hockey. I know so little, in fact, that I don't really know anything. So first of all, I just want to mention I am trying. I am trying to be a good Canadian. I love Canadian music. Two of my favourite musicians are Canadian. Stan Rogers, absolutely fantastic musician. Of course, the Barenaked Ladies. A lot of people laugh when I tell them the Barenaked Ladies are probably my favourite band of all time, but if you've ever listened to their back catalogue, they have a lot of incredibly well-written songs. It's not just one week. It's not. There's a whole lot more to the Barenaked Ladies than 1 week and all of their other big hits. If I had $1 million, is pretty good. Damn, I'll craft dinner now. Anyway, I have fully embraced Canadian whiskey. I have fully embraced Canadian culture in general. That I still don't quite understand hockey. First of all, I don't understand why it's not called ice hockey. I mean, surely the one that you play on, like, the ground is the default. Like in really sunny places like Brazil, they don't call beach soccer and call regular soccer grass soccer. Like, I don't... Well, field soccer, I guess. Like, if it's played on a field, surely that's the regular version. Like, and anyway, ice hockey, as I will forever refer to it as in my head, but might try and... I'll try and just call it hockey. I will try. Is very popular here, so I understand. It's very popular. And today we have 6 hockey-themed whiskies that I'm going to be trying. And I'm really excited by these, actually, because they have a really, really cool story. So these are actually made by Wiser's, JP Wiser's, which is an interesting brand. It's actually older than Canada by 10 years. JP Wiser's been around since 1857. It's the oldest continually produced whiskey brand in Canada. And these days, of course, it's made at Hiram Walker's Distillery in Windsor, Ontario. And its recent success, I mean, it's always been successful, but its recent success in the eyes of the whiskey connoisseur can mostly be attributed to one very important man, and that is the whiskey doctor himself, Dr. Don Livermore. And Dr. Don Livermore, he probably doesn't know this. I only just found this out. We actually went to school together. But not really. We just happened to be at university at the same time. At the same time as I was doing my math degree at Heriot-Watt University, he was doing a much more prestigious doctorate in brewing and distilling, which... God, I wish I'd done that. That sounds pretty awesome. Although I don't think I can. I'm just going to go out on a whim here and say I am not as smart as Dr. Don Livermore. I think I'm comfortable enough with myself that I can admit that to everyone. So Dr. Don Livermore was given a challenge by the branding company Corby to come up with some whiskies to go along with the new idea they had to release some NHL alumni whiskies. And the plan was they were going to team with the NHL alumni. I think it's the NHL alumni. It might just be the hockey alumni. I don't know if they're officially like affiliated with the NHL or not. I know there's no NHL logo on the whiskies. But they had this idea of doing charity bottles, basically, where they would have individual players from the alumni come in and have their version of a whiskey. And in the hands of most people, that would go horribly wrong. You'd probably end up with, a standard bottling which has a slightly different label, and 50 cents went to the charity, and no one really gave a crap. Don didn't want to do that. He's got a legacy to protect. He's got one hell of a reputation to protect, and if Don's going to do something, he's going to put his all into it. So instead of just doing that, instead of just having the standard Wiser Deluxe with a hockey player's face on it and calling it a day, he took this challenge to heart. He actually went as far as to completely make bespoke whiskies for each different player based on their play style, and some little Easter egg facts about them. There's a lot that go into these whiskies. I don't understand the vast majority of these little Easter eggs. So I've got some cheat notes here. I've got some cheat notes I got off the interwebs because I don't know what any of this means. Like, I'm looking at the bottles right now. I don't know any of these players. I've never heard of them in my life because I don't know anything about ice hockey. Like, I couldn't tell you what position they play. And Brett was actually, my colleague at the Strath was challenging me to try and guess what position they play. That's going to be incredibly hard because I don't know what positions exist in hockey. Like, I'm guessing there's a goalkeeper or goaltender or some kind of goalie. I presume there's I guess it's not a striker because they're not striking, a hitter. Well, they all hit, I don't know, they hit the little rubber ring thing. I'm lost here, but I am not in this for the hockey. Unlike a lot of people who I'm sure enjoy these whiskies greatly, I am in this for the whiskey. These were not even on my radar until about a year and a half ago. I was at the Canadian Whisky Awards, sat in the audience, and noticing an awful lot of whiskies named after people I'd never heard of were winning an awful lot of awards. And Don Livermore was getting, heavier and heavier as the night progressed, with things dangling from around his neck. I then, I got some of the notes, some of the results from Heather, who's co-presenter, a good friend of mine, Heather Leary. Hi, Heather. And found out it's this alumni series thing, which hadn't made it out to BC at that point. It had only been available back out east, and I was intrigued. I thought, well, it's good enough to be winning awards. I should keep an eye out for this. And I happened to have the opportunity to go to the Spirit of Toronto Festival last year, a festival which I believe is actually, at the time of recording, was supposed to be happening right now. And I was planning on going again. Of course, it got cancelled, as all festivals have and should have been, which is very unfortunate, but the right thing to do. But it was at that festival I ran into Don Livermore again. I was there with Frank Hudson and Lawrence Gray, and we actually ran into him on the street, just randomly walking around Toronto about 3 hours before the festival. Then ran into him again at the festival, at the showcase, and he had those first three alumni series whiskies, the only three that had been released at the time. I don't know what they were because, again, these names don't mean anything to me, unfortunately. I'm sure they're fantastic players. They're probably great guys. I don't know who you are, and I'm very sorry. I'm sorry. I could probably name quite a few Australian rules football players that no one else watching this video has ever heard of, though. So, Jack Riewoldt, boom. I should do an Australian whiskey tasting and dress up in my Richmond Tigers Guernsey. That'd be cool. Anyway, off topic. But honestly, until I recognize some of the names on this now because they've been sat on our shelves for a couple of months. But until these whiskies came along, I only knew 3 hockey players, and they're not for particularly good reasons. Like I know Wayne Gretzky because, for a start, he has his own whiskey and wine now. But I know him because he was on the cover of the NHL games for PlayStation. I also know, of course, Tim Horton because I very much enjoy his crullers. And the last one I know is a bit of a weird one that people might not expect. I know the name Gordie Howe, who I believe to be a hockey player. I even know what number he played in because I was looking that up earlier with Brett. He played number 9, and I have no idea what team he played for. The only reason I know he played number 9 is he featured in a Barenaked Ladies song on their kids' album Snack Time called 789, where it had a line, 9 was minding his business talking to 10 about Gordie Howe's clothes. Why 789? Nobody knows. See, I'm Canadian. I know Barenaked Ladies lyrics. Obscure Barenaked Ladies lyrics. I'm as Canadian as maple pie? No, do we have maple pie? Maple syrup? I was trying to think of something less obvious than maple syrup, but maple had already left my mouth. I'm going to shut up and pour some whiskey. So, I also have, from the great doctor himself, his official flavor wheel, so I can try and pinpoint some of these flavors. Now, this is not just any old flavor wheel. You've probably seen several floating around, especially for single malts. This is one that Dr. Donald Livermore has specifically tailored for Canadian whiskies, telling you where the flavors come from, but also going, as he always does, very in-depth about the chemistry behind it. So not only will it tell you that you might taste fruity notes, such as, and fruity is a section, and then there's subsections like pear and pineapple, or banana. But he also then gives you the chemical compounds that you're actually tasting there that give you that flavor. So pear and pineapple is ethyl caprolate, and banana is isoamyl acetate. Huh. Interesting. I love banana, but if someone was to tell me this whiskey tastes like acetate, I would have assumed that would be a bad thing. But apparently it's it might just be partially banana. Or ethyl acetate, which is green apple. Well, that's cool. Anyway, so I will be using this as a little bit of a reference guide for my own tasting notes, but there's one thing missing. I've been talking far too much and not been drinking enough. And as with hockey, I'm sure, and with any sport, stretching is very important. And you guys, if you're regular watchers of these Drinking Out Loud videos, will be wondering where my opening dram is. Well, I don't have one. But I asked around some of my Canadian hockey-loving friends to find out what the quintessential drink to be enjoying with the game is, and they came back to me with this giant can of Molson's Canadian. So this is my opening dram today. I'm going to crack this open and tell you what I think of this beer, which, to the best of my knowledge, I don't think I've ever had a Molson's Canadian. So let's hope it's not terrible. It could be worse. I've got to be honest. I was expecting worse. It's all right. I'm not usually a fan of cheap domestic lager, but yeah, I'd drink this. I can see this being very popular in plastic cups in an arena. It's not the kind of drink that would lose anything from being served in thin, flimsy plastic. It's fine. Honestly, I feel like I could probably just do this and, like, it has the same effect. This glass of water is now superfluous to my needs. I'm going to put it over here because I have this Molson's Canadian instead of water now, and that's fine. You know, that's all right. I'm okay with this. So, I haven't tried any of these 6 whiskies that I'm about to try. I haven't really looked into too much about what they are. I've got some crib notes, but I want to be pleasantly surprised because I was very pleasantly surprised when I tried those first 3 releases in Toronto. I thought, honestly, you can go back onto my Instagram if you think I'm bullshitting. I took a photo of some of them. They were probably my favorite thing that I tried there, not including the ridiculous masterclass I went to before the main festival. That was pretty special, you know. No offense to the alumni series, they were very, very cool. I really liked them. The Port Ellen was pretty cool. The single cask Redbreast was pretty neat. The original Dream cask was pretty freaking cool. But these were also very, very cool. The first three, I think the thing that got me with them is they were very, very good, but they were so much better than I was expecting. And I think that's what a lot of people are getting from this alumni series, is it's not just a gimmick. Like, with everything Don does, he puts his all into it, and he knows what the hell he's doing. He's really gone in deep and made some whiskies that he's proud of, that he also hopes represent each player, and that each player is proud of too. I say is proud of. I know that with the first batch, he worked with the players. The players actually visited the distillery, went to Hiram Walker, and helped work on the whiskies. I don't know if that carried on into the second and third releases. Like I said, I honestly don't even know if these guys are all still alive. Some of them might have unfortunately passed. I don't know. So fill me in. I'd like to learn a little bit about the guys whose names are on these whiskies that I'm about to enjoy. But yeah, I'm going to start by randomly selecting. That's how I'm going to choose which whiskey to start with. So I've got them all in a row from left to right. I'm going to start with the left, and I'm going to do something that I hope works. I've not actually tried this. Hey Google, pick a random number between 1 and 6.
Here's a random number, 5.
Sweet. Thanks, Google. All right. So I'm starting, funnily enough, with the only one that we no longer have in stock at the Strath. I bought the last one. This is the Dave Keon. Thank you, the Dave. The Dave Keon. It's a one-time release, as they all are. This one was from the 2019-2020 editions. It is style well-rounded. So if I was to guess well-rounded, I'm going to say center. Most sports that are team sports have a center. Maybe this person is a center position, if that exists. It is a 3-grain blend, 45% ABV. 14 years old from 4 different barrels. Bourbon, Speyside malt. Oh, ex-Speyside, that's pretty neat. Ex-bourbon's pretty normal. Ex-Canadian, that's an interesting distinction. It's not just refill, it's ex-Canadian whiskey. Fair. It's fair play. That's true to what it is. And Virgin Oak. So it's got fresh, ex-American, ex-Canadian, and ex-Scottish. I wonder if this guy was like a world traveller of some sorts. I mean, I'm sure most hockey players were. They probably played in like world tournaments and Olympics. Yeah, they have world tournaments of ice hockey, don't they? Yeah, like people in like snowy places in Europe play ice hockey. Like the Russians. The Russians play ice hockey. I've seen it. I saw an Olympics thing, actually. The one ice hockey game I actually sat all the way through and really enjoyed, I believe, was the women's Canadian versus Russia, which was really quite good. I got into that because I could see the little puck thing. I can't see that when I go to live games. I just get bored and wonder why there's so many adverts. Yeah. The Alumni Association and award-winning whiskey maker J.P. Weiser honour the past by co-creating this premium Canadian whiskey. Proceeds received by the alumni are invested back into local hockey initiatives across the country, whilst also supporting the retired player community. So I believe it's actually half and half. I think half of the profits go back to Weiser's to, put in and make more whiskey, because they're a company, of course, and you can't blame them for that. And then half of the profits go to the Alumni Fund, which helps some of the local community community hockey teams, whiskey teams, which is sort of whiskey team. I'd love that. Community hockey teams, and of course the Alumni Foundation. And as much as I don't know much about hockey, one thing I do know about hockey is how broken, battered, and bruised the players that make it, and also the players that don't make it, end up. And the players that don't make it are in a rougher position because they don't get as big a paycheck as the players that make it. And not only that, the players that even made it back in the day didn't make anywhere near as much money as they do today. I know most of that from a fantastic Stan Rogers song called Flying, or Flyer, I think it's Flying. I might even play it at the end of this video if YouTube allows me. Some songs you're allowed and sometimes some songs you're not. But if you're not familiar with that Stan Rogers song, it's absolutely fantastic. And I'll try my best to play it at the end of the video. All right, so I've got a few crib notes as well. Let's find Dave Keon, Davey Boy Keon. All right, so extra information here. So it actually, this, I'm assuming comes straight from Don. The has some information on the distilling itself. So the rye component of this is a single column distilled rye. There's also column and pot distilled rye, which would make it akin to the Lot 40 recipe. Single column distilled malt, so coffee malt basically, right? It's malt whiskey that's been distilled in a column still. And that's one thing I should mention as well. Whereas I had a masterclass a long time ago where there was one guy who was adamant that they should really try single distillation scotches. And I was trying to explain how, like, in a pot still, that doesn't really work. Like, you know, it wouldn't be nice. Like, I've had some of the low wines. They're not good, usually. Like, I mean, they're fine for low wines, and you can tell a good one from a bad one, but you want to put it in a bottle and sell it. But single distilled spirits do exist, of course, in a column still, where you can basically, in effect, you can treat a column still as multiple distillations at once in a pot still, right? It's you can change the plates and get the reflux back in, and yeah, so it's like single distilled malt from a column still, which exists in this whiskey. And then there's also double distilled corn as well. So yeah, it's got two types of rye whiskey, a malt whiskey and a corn whiskey. And of course, that is what separates Canadian whiskey from pretty much the rest of the world, and what makes Canadian whiskey so special. I should put this in frame while I'm talking so you can actually see the bloody thing. So, Canadian whiskey, unlike American whiskey, same kind of ingredients, very different process. In American whiskey, they have what's called a mash bill, right? Where they'll take a little bit of corn, a little bit of wheat, a little bit of barley, a little bit of rye, a little bit of whatever the hell's lying around, oats sometimes, you know, if you're Buffalo Trace and you're doing this experimental series. Yeah, you take a little bit of each, and you brew them together, and then you distill them together, and then you mature them together, and then you've got your whiskey, which is why you end up with historically single cask bourbons and single cask American whiskeys are a big thing. Whereas the whole point of Canadian whiskey is they distill each grain separately and mature them separately, so they've got finer control over the blending process after the fact. So that's why, until very recently, you wouldn't get single cask Canadian whiskies. I read it in a press release, actually, for a whiskey that I'm bringing into the store very, very soon. Apparently, the first ever single cask Canadian whiskey released was Caribou Crossing, which is a Sazerac product. And that surprised me somewhat, because that's a relatively new whiskey, and surely someone in the 1940s made a single cask Canadian whiskey, but I was like, no, of course they didn't. Canadian whiskey's not about that. It's about taking single casks of different single grains and blending them together to make something really beautiful, harmonious, and consistent. So why would you have single cask traditional Canadian style whiskey? That doesn't make any sense. It makes literally no sense. I've been talking too much without drinking. I'm going to take another swig of this Molson's Canadian, which it's actually really growing on me. Damn, I feel Canadian. All right. And let's crack open the Dave Keon. 14 years old is a great age for a rye, actually. I think it's one of those things, whereas bourbon, of course, being that they always use a virgin cask, I tend to find the sweet spot for bourbons is between 5 and 8 years. I don't generally like older bourbons. I find them a bit too tannic usually because of the virgin cask. Canadian whiskey, like as we've seen with the Canadian Club 41 or the Wiser's 35, or Canadian Club 42, which I have actually yet to try, which is weird. I guess shit hit the fan and I just haven't got around to it yet. I should probably try the Canadian Club 42. But the Wiser's 35, of course, and the other older Canadian clubs have shown us that Canadian whiskey can be absolutely fantastic when it's old, much like Scotch can. But I would say for regular releases, that sweet spot is very similar to the general Scotch sweet spot. I say most Scotches are at their sort of prime between the ages of... There's some outliers, but generally between 10 and 20 is actually the sweet spots. Like a lot of distilleries, the 18 is, in my opinion, better than the 21. I think it's a little bit more well balanced. It depends what you're looking for in a whiskey, of course. If you're looking for something older and mellower, and like, I love old whiskies. I do. I love 40-year-old Glenfarclas. It's absolutely delicious. But gun to my head, if I had the choice of drinking 40-year-old Glenfarclas for the rest of my life and drinking 15-year-old Glenfarclas for the rest of my life, I'd choose the 15. I think it's special and beautiful and interesting to have those cool older releases. I think there's a lot that they give you. But yeah, I mean, I think certain whiskies just work better. And it's all about the wood influence and the spirit influence, right? Where they cross over in that little graph. And I like it when they're approximately even for most styles of whiskey. With Canadian whiskey, just, different style, different maturation rates, different climate over here. I find it to be slightly toned down. I find Canadian whiskey is really good between the ages of, say, 7 and 17 or 7 and 16, that kind of age range. So 14 for me is absolutely spot on. I've had some fantastic, 4-year-old Canadian whiskies. I've had some fantastic 41-year-old Canadian whiskies. We just established I've not had the 42. But yeah, I like that sweet spot. So yeah, 14 is right in there for me. I'm looking forward to trying this one. Love the proper corks. That's a nice, good quality cork. Ooh. I should mention the Canadian Glencairn as well. So this is a style of Glencairn. It's sold in the UK as well, just as a tumbler, but I believe it was developed specifically for North American style whiskey. Brings out different flavors to the forefront. Maybe tones down the sweetness a little more, accentuates the spicier notes. I honestly find it does make a difference. I generally try, whenever possible, to drink my bourbons and ryes out of this style of glass. I think it works better than a standard Glencairn. Okay, flavor wheel. What am I getting on the nose? It's fruity, which apparently means it comes from the yeast in the Canadian whiskey. It's fruity. What kind of fruit is it though? I think it's stone fruit. I think it's orchard fruit you're getting here. Is that an option on here? Oh yeah, apricot. Yeah, I'd go apricot. So ethyl caprate. Thank you, Ethel. Ethyl caprate. Nice. I am getting sort of a spicy pepper kind of a thing, like not pepper like peppercorn, not black pepper, but pepper like a chili pepper. We should really, the English language has so many words. We should really differentiate a little bit better. Why do we have two different types of peppers that are both used in very similar ways? So what's pepper on here? This is riveting, by the way. I love this wheel. Spicy clove? Yeah, clove would be, actually. Yeah, totally. Clove is a good descriptor of what I'm on the nose there. So that's probably coming from the rye, apparently, and it's most likely eugenol? Eugenol. That sounds like a... I don't know. Sounds like a weird drug. Has your doctor prescribed eugenol to you? Yeah, very nice. Not an awful lot of the vanilla that I would normally associate with Wisers, to be honest, but hey, that's why these whiskies are here. Like, they're all showcasing different parts of the different components of Wisers, right? Like, that's the beautiful thing about Canadian whiskey is they don't have to change anything that they're doing to all of a sudden be able to come up with a whole suite of different whiskies. Like, if you were to ask, if you were to ask Glenlivet to do this, like, Glenlivet, I'd like you to make 6 different whiskies for 6 different cricket players. They would be like, okay, well, give us 18 years, we'll start working on it. You don't need to do that with Canadian-style whiskey because you've got all of the components to make different whiskies all there ready to go in the warehouse. That's great. It brings so much more freedom and creativity to play, which I'm sure Dr. Don is very happy about. That's nice. That's really nice. I'm actually getting a little more deeper, almost sherry, like, the majority of my experience with whiskey, of course, comes with Scotch, so that the language I use for whiskey is going to be very biased towards Scotch. But I'm getting notes that I would normally associate with sherry casks. I'm wondering if the this is the one that had ex-Speyside cask, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, this is the ex-Speyside model cask. I'm wondering if that ex-Speyside cask was actually sherry originally, before it was Speyside. Because I'm getting a little bit of that sort of prunes, winey, sweet. It is getting sweeter as I go. Yeah, quite caramelly. Cool. Yeah, it's very pleasant. I'm glad I got the last bottle. I'm pretty happy with that one. Yeah. It's very, Goodham and Watts-esque. Reminds me a lot of their special releases. That's very pleasant. Alright. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with the bottles once I've tried them. I guess we'll just line them up over here and let them slowly take over the table. Okay, so I've got 5 now. Hey Google, pick a random number between 1 and 5.
Here's a random number, 1.
1. Alrighty. Next up on the... It's not a pitch, it's not a field, it's a rink. Is rink the right word? Next up on the rink is Paul Coffey, who, by the surname, should make a very good whiskey. Because, I mean, my first instinct would be like Coffey still. Gotta use that. Gotta use that Coffey style still on this one. Be interesting to see what they did. So this is from the 2019-2020 edition. So is it the same series? I think this is the one before. I think this is the second trilogy. Rich and smooth. It is a 2-grain this time, so a blend of just 2 different grains. 48% alcohol by volume. It's a 7-year-old with Canadian, Speyside, Virgin Oak, and bourbon barrels. I just realised, I'm sorry, I'm so into the whiskey side of things and so oblivious to the whole hockey thing that I never actually talked about Dave Keon. I've looked up the facts. I found out the information. I should go back and tell you why this whiskey is very Dave Keon-y. So Dave Keon was a centre forward. Didn't I say centre? Yeah. Bring it. Dave Keon was a centre forward for the Maple Leafs. So I'm even wearing the right top. Nice. From an earlier generation in the early to mid 1960s when they won several Stanley Cups. I feel like that was a dig at their current state. I don't know much about the Maple Leafs, but I know they suck right now. Aged 14 years in honour of his jersey. 14. Makes sense. Clever. That's an easy one. The ABV is also a nod to Keon's 45-point first season. Cool. Deep dive there. And the 4 types of oak casks are a nod to his 4 Stanley Cup wins. So that's the kind of Easter egg detail that Dr. Don is putting into these whiskies. And that's pretty cool. Like, if this was on a subject where I was a little more geeky about, or any geeky about, I would be all over these whiskies just for the amount of detail in their creation. I think this is so cool. Plus the fact that every time you buy a bottle, donations go to very good causes. Like, as much as I don't understand hockey, I appreciate the need for hockey in Canada's culture. I appreciate the need for looking after the retired hockey players or the hockey players that never even made it to be professionals. I appreciate the need for kids in rural communities to have something to do, to bring them together, to bond, to teach them life skills. Hockey, I don't have anything against hockey. I just don't quite get it. I get the purpose, I get the need for it, I don't quite get the enjoyment of it. Maybe after I've been here a decade, I'll try it again. Alright, so this is Powell Coffee. Paul, of course, not Powell. 7-year-old 4 barrels. So, what extra information did I manage to find online about this one? So, Paul Coffee is mainly corn with 7% rye. That's a hell of a blend. 93% corn, 7% rye. So, you know, if this was a mash bill rather than a Canadian style, those would be bourbon ingredients, really. Age 7 years old, ABV 48%. Both ingredients were column distilled in this one, and it uses used Canadian whiskey barrels, ex-Speyside, ex-bourbon, and ex-virgin oak casks. So actually that is exactly the same as Dave Keon's. Interestingly. Were they on the same team? Is that a nod to each other? Is that just a happy accident? I like that it's exactly half the age of Keon's as well. It's kind of neat. So before I forget, I'll tell you about why this whiskey is specific to Paul Coffey. A star defenseman for the Edmonton Oilers, so not the same team. The obvious connection to Paul Coffey is his jersey number 7, which relates to both the age of this whiskey and the proportion of rye in the blend. The noticeably higher proof of 48% refers to his historic 48-goal season, a record for the most goals scored by a defenseman in a single season. That's impressive. That's a lot of goals for someone who's nowhere near the goal. The higher proof is probably also a nod to his high-energy form of play. And I did also read online, or actually I saw in a video online, that Paul Coffey was saying that he felt like he could still go back and play at a very old age, but they wouldn't let him. So yeah, boundless energy apparently this gentleman had. Let's see if the whiskey has boundless energy as well. Let's find that little golden tab and rip her open. Nice. I do want to actually make a quick mention of a big thank you to all of our local Dram Association members and serial viewers who are actually tuning in for this one, because I find it very, very disheartening how many times we do something in the Dram Association about Canadian whiskey and people just start going, oh, it's just Canadian whiskey, I don't care as much. Wake up. Like, Canadian whiskey is incredible. Like, if you haven't noticed yet, the whiskey from your own backyard is world class, then someone needs to slap you in the face with an Atlantic salmon. Like, for Christ's sake, pay attention to Canadian whiskey. It is absolutely beautiful, and it's made right here in your own backyard. I mean, granted, this is made in Ontario, so it's made thousands of kilometers away, but we're all one nation. So yeah, thank you for not being a Scotch snob and actually joining in for the Canadian whiskey review, because there's something special here. Most Canadians have no idea how good their own whiskey is, and that, as an outsider, makes me... Oh, I'm an outsider. I still think of myself as an outsider. I've not been here long enough. That's sad. I'm going to drink more Molson's Canadian and hope it makes me more Canadian. But yeah, as someone with, an outside perspective, maybe, I find it sad that Canadians don't realise how good their own whiskey is, because you really don't. So first thing I notice in comparison to the last one, sweeter. I'm getting like a brown sugar. And yes, I have that song stuck in my head now. Brown sugar. Who plays that? Rolling Stones? No. Is it? I don't know. Anyway. Hey Google, who plays Brown Sugar?
Brown Sugar was recorded by the Rolling Stones.
It's the Rolling Stones. Thanks, Google. It's very useful. I'll keep her around. Yeah, I'm getting orange rind. I'm getting brown sugar still on the palate. Vanilla. Quite a lot of vanilla in this one, actually. Even is... I mentioned that the components are very, bourbon-esque. It even tastes a little bourbony, to be honest with you. It's got that... Reminds me of Old Grandad. This would be right at home in an old-fashioned, which is one of my favourite ways to enjoy bourbon, actually. Let's consult the whiskey wheel and see if I can find out which chemical compound is in my mouth right now. So I'm going to make a guess here. An educated guess. I am getting a buttery, grassy thing. So I'm thinking there might be a little bit of diacetyl in this one. I'd love to know if I'm right. If by any random chance Dr. Don Livermore happens to stumble across this video, does this one have does the Paul Coffey have any diacetyl? I don't even know how to pronounce it. Because I honestly, this is riveting, and I've never really thought about whiskey in this chemical construction way that much before. And I was actually very jealous. I got my girlfriend, Kristen, tickets to go to Dr. Don Livermore's masterclass at the Victoria Whiskey Festival this year, which unfortunately I couldn't attend because I was working the pop-up store and, working at the festival the whole time. So I didn't get to attend it. And she came home just glowing. Like, she was so impressed with that masterclass. She basically told me that anytime Don Livermore is in town, Dr. Don Livermore is in town, that she wants to go to his masterclass because it was so in-depth and geeky. And Kristen, being in engineering, she's an electrical engineer by her degree, although she's in software engineering right now, really likes that level of detail. So that really spoke to her. And she's very early on in her whiskey journey. So to be able to learn from a master like that and equate whiskey not in this airy-fairy artsy sense that, the less scientific eyes like myself will see it as, but in this much more sort of honed-in scientific sense was eye-opening to her. Literally, like, she has a newfound passion for not just Canadian whiskey, but whiskey in general because of that, which is really cool. So thank you, Dr. Livermore. I have someone to share my whiskey collection with at home now, just in time to be trapped at home with her during the outbreak. So yeah, perfect. We've been enjoying many drams together. So just, I'm not trying to score these or anything. This is just I'm just drinking out loud right now. I'm not trying to score these things. But I will try and keep track of which ones are, top of the pile for me. A little floral now, actually. This guy's just a little touch floral. I just noticed that the back, actually, before it has the blurb, has their jersey number, or I still don't know what this is called. Their player number, I guess, on the back. So there's number 7, number 14. That's a cool touch. I think I prefer coffee. Yeah, I mean, based on like just the facts and the details, I would have assumed that this one would have been my preference of the two. It's twice the age. It's, same barrels, but it's got more in more ingredients in there. It's got the third grain in there. It's got barley in it. You know how much I love barley. But yeah, no, apparently this straight up corn and rye masterpiece is right up my alley. This is beautiful. I'm glad that I'm glad that Dr. Don released a big, powerful 7-year-old in the mix here, because I think it's a great way of showcasing the fact that age isn't everything, especially in Canadian whiskey. It's all about the blending. It really is. And Dr. Don is an absolute master. He's better than a master. He's a doctor at blending. All right. Glass number 3. I've got 4 left. Hey Google, pick a random number between 1 and 4.
3.
All right, so next up is the one that I've been dreading because I have no idea how to pronounce this guy. I don't even know how to pronounce his first name. Yvan. Even Cornoya? I'm going with Even Cornoya. If anyone... Yeah. I'm out of my depth here. Hockey player. This is a hockey player whiskey. I'm sure he was a fantastic hockey player. We're about to learn something about him. But first of all, his whiskey. This is a smooth and complex style. So if this is smooth and complex, I'm guessing that he was probably a very technical player. He was probably someone that was... he wouldn't have been a goaltender person. Probably would have been more of an all-rounder, maybe. I heard Brett talking about wings earlier today, and I don't think he was talking about hot wings. I think he was talking about hockey. I'm going to go with, I think he was a wing. Either a left or a right, but probably not a hot wing. Although, that's a hell of a haircut. He was pretty hot. 3 grain. This one is 40%. I'm sure there's a story behind that as well. 12 years old, aged in bourbon and virgin oak. So a little bit simpler, maybe. Although it's back to 3 grains instead of 2, but only 2 different cask types in this one. Let's see what the interwebs had for this one. Alright, here he is. Even Cornier. Blend of corn. Haha. Cornier. Corn. It just makes sense. Corn, rye, and malted barley. Single column distilled rye, column and then pot distilled rye, which is the Lot 40 recipe. Double distilled corn and column distilled malt. And that is in a mix of the, although it just says on here, bourbon and virgin oak. In the notes I have from the internet, which all of a sudden I am doubting their validity, mentions also used Canadian barrels. So it might be 3 different cask types. It might just be 2. I don't know. Okay, so Ivan, the Roadrunner Cornier, was a right winger. And I don't think they mean in the Margaret Thatcher sense. And captain of the Montreal Canadiens from 1975 to 1978. But his peak years were 71 to 73. And he was famous for his role in the 1972 Summit Series, scoring... What the hell is the Summit Series? Sounds like a wrestling pay-per-view. Scoring 3 goals and providing the crucial assist for Paul Henderson's series-ending winning goal. So, like, technical player passing the... that was a good guess. I'm proud of that one. And that is one of the nods here. Apparently, the mix of this whiskey was inspired by the 1972 recipe for Carlton Tower, an old Hiram Walker blend that was available in the early 1970s. So that is super geeky. So instead of like picking random numbers that had anything to do with Even, they took the era that he was in his prime, found an old recipe for a whiskey that was made at the same factory back then, and then created a new version of that. That is really cool. But then they do tie in the number because it's aged for 12 years in honor of Cornier's retired jersey number. It's called a jersey. Oh, I'm learning things. I'm wearing a jersey, guys. It's a jersey. It's not a top. It's not a uniform. It's not a shirt. It's a jersey. I'll try and remember that. Cool. All right. Number 3. Let's crack her open. Ooh. I obviously have to watch these videos back a couple of times through editing and also with the live chat. I've noticed every time I open a bottle, I can't. It's like dab noises. I can't open a bottle without going, ooh. I can't not do the ooh. It's like I can't stand up anymore without going. Despite, as far as I'm aware, not being a dad. It's glorious how different all of these are. Gentle, really delicate. And it's fruity in an appley kind of way. So, ethyl acetate, good old friend Ethel. Yeah, it's appley, it's grassy, it's very light on the spice in this one. Probably, does it say how much rye? It tastes less rye. Interesting. It's still 2 types of rye. It tastes less rye. All right, off the bat, that is. Yeah, probably open up and change, right? Very cereally, this one. Very Cheerios. Honey Nut Cheerios. Oh, I like that. I like that quite a lot. You know, on the fly, I'm deciding. So, instead of trying to pull apart all of these and tell you which ones my favorites are, I'm going to put them, this is very hockey themed, I'm going to put them into teams. So this, Cournoyer, Coffee, and Keon, this is Team 1. I guess we should come up with a better team. Okay, what are hockey teams called? We've got like the Maple Leafs and the Canadiens and the Oilers. How about we call these guys the Coopers? These are the where's a place that probably doesn't actually have a hockey team? The Courtney Coopers. These are the Courtney Coopers. And then we'll have another team with the other 3, and I'll decide overall which team wins. So we've got the Courtney Coopers versus the to be decided. The Courtney Coopers are looking pretty strong, I've got to say. We've got a good right wing. We've got a good centre. We've got a good... Sorry, this is defenseman. I don't remember what Keon was. What was Keon? I'm building a team now. I'm suddenly invested in what they were. So Keon was the centre. And this guy was Coffee. So Coffee was the defenseman. So yeah, we've got a centre, a defenseman, and a wing. We've got a team. We did it, guys. We made a team. Let's go. We made a whiskey team. Courtney Coopers. See, I got the alliteration and everything. Courtney Coopers. Very nice. Definitely the most gentle, almost floral. Yeah, it's getting not quite in a lavender rosy kind of way, more in a spring type blossomy kind of a way, which I don't think is on here. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything blossomy. Yeah, I'd really like to know what unpronounceable chemical compound blossom might appear as. I mean, as much as this is cool, I mean, for the vast majority of people, these words are completely meaningless, and I'm sure Donald Moore probably understands that, but he also understands that it is unequivocally cool. This is very cool. Like, I can now look up, thanks to this wheel, that if I'm tasting onion or garlic in a whiskey, which I did, God, I hope I'm not, that sounds awful, I might be tasting dimethyl disulfide. Oh, so garlicky flavour is part of a sulfuring. Oh, cool. See, every time I look at this wheel, I learn something else. It's so full of cool information. Everyone should get one of these. There's actually a link. He posted one in Twitter a while back. I'll try and find it back. There's a link to a PDF. I'll try and put it in the live comments so you guys can get one as well, because it's really neat. All right, Courtney Coopers, you did good, but it's time to clear the ice. Clear the ice. That sounds like hockey terminology. And make some room for the next team. So I feel, I chose Courtney. I like Courtney. It's cool. My girlfriend's from very near there. Shoulder Point's near there. It's a nice wee town that, is the first place that came to mind when I thought of a town small enough that it probably doesn't have a hockey team. I should probably think of something a little bit more East Coast for the next three, because I love the West, but it's a big country. There's a lot of country to cover still. So I'm gonna think of a small town over in the East that's this is the team from. But in the meantime, the first member of the team, let's find out. Hey Google, pick a number between 1 and 3.
Here's a random number, 1.
1. Okay, so we're starting our East Coast. Are there brackets in hockey? Is there like 2 different leagues in the East and the West? That sounds like a thing that would happen here. The winner of the East Coast Tournament League bracket is the... okay, Adam, think of a small town from where you used to live. The Bracebridge Brewers. The Bracebridge Brewers, there we go. Is Mark Messier, or Messier. Messier sounds more real. This is a bold and tenacious whiskey. Oh, that's exciting. This is a 3-grain whiskey. It's 47%. It is 11 years old and is entirely finished in Speyside malt barrels. So, I'm wondering if the Speyside malt barrels are ex-sherry or not. I got a hint of it in one of the ones that had some ex-Speyside. This one being all ex-Speyside, maybe we'll be able to unlock that information and find out a little bit. And can I open this without pulling a funny face and making a sound? Ooh. No, I can't. Neat. Alright. Mark Messier. So, why was this whiskey chosen and what is the distillation style? So this was a single column distilled rye and malt with double distilled corn. That does sound right up my alley. That sounds great. Okay, and yeah, the ex-Speyside casks. Actually, it specifically says here ex-bourbon and ex-Speyside, so I'm wondering if the ex-Speyside are ex-bourbon casks, if you get the drift. So they were used with bourbon first and then Scotch, Speyside Scotch, and now this. I wonder if casks have their own passport. They do travel a lot. Okay, so the first player for our Bracebridge Brewers is the Mark Messier, who was a star for the Edmonton Oilers, and as captain led both the Oilers and New York Rangers. I thought it was a baseball team. No, that's the Yankees. Is that baseball or is that... I don't know. To Stanley Cup victories. This whiskey is aged 11 years in honour of Messier's jersey number and is bottled at 94 proof, 47%, checks out, 94 proof in honour of Messier winning the Cup in 1994 in New York. Nice. I like what you did there. Cool. Cool. Alright, so we have a captain. We have a centre already, so hopefully this team will work out just as well-rounded. We have a centre. Hopefully we'll end up with some kind of defence and some kind of wingman. That's a nice glug. It might just be my imagination. It might just be entirely the whole sort of thinking something and then it coming true in your mouth, but power of suggestion. It does taste sherry casky. It it tastes a little bit like figs, and that's something I often find in sherry casks. But maybe those figs are coming from somewhere else. Does it say figs on here? I wonder if figs come from somewhere. I don't see figs. That's a shame. I see cauliflower, which is cool. I don't see figs. I don't think I've ever said I find cauliflower in a whiskey. I'm going to challenge myself to find a cauliflower whiskey now. Roasted peanuts. Nice. Here we go. Dried fruits. So figs. I'm thinking dried figs, not fresh figs. Would come under dried fruits. So that would be furfural. Furry referral. A furfural. Neat. Yeah, it's very pleasant. It's got that same sort of soft gentleness to the as the last one, the Ivan Kornyopri, that guy. It doesn't feel 7% more alcoholic than it, but it's very nice. They're all very nice. I have to admit, I'm not as blown away as I was with the first three, but I'm almost positive that's because I wasn't expecting the first three to be good. Now I know that these are good, I'm not disappointed, and that's probably the more important sort of metric here. I'm very happy with them. I'm very happy with all of these so far. I think I made some good choices. I made some good choices in life. I've ended up with 6 fantastic whiskeys, so I definitely did something right. Well, 4. I don't know about these last 2. They could be garbage. Seems unlikely. All of these are very Canadian style. And that's the thing. I know there's going to be people who, it's hard to rip that Scotch Band-Aid off, right? It's hard to go from, an 18-year-old Macallan and go to this style of whiskey because it's a different ball game. I've said before, it's almost as different as comparing a whiskey to a cognac. Like, it really is that different. I think I said that in my Shelter Point review where I reviewed their rye, which was actually made at Alberta Distillers, Alberta Premium. But yeah, they're very, very different spirits. You can't really compare them directly. And if you don't like Canadian-style spirits, then I feel sorry for you, but that's completely fair. But yeah, I don't like it, though, when people who... I know it's very difficult to be objective with scoring a whiskey, but there are a lot of people who are so used to Scotch who then, they finally get coaxed out of their little Scotch cave and they come and they try a Canadian whiskey and they're like, yeah, it's good. It's a really good Canadian whiskey. It's one of the best Canadian whiskeys I've ever had. But it's not as good to me as that Balvenie 14, so I'm going to score it a 63. That's bollocks. You've got to compare apples to apples here. Like, just because you don't like that style of whiskey doesn't make this a bad whiskey. If this is one of the best... not to say this is, but it is. If the whiskey you're trying is one of the best examples of that style you've ever had, like, that at least deserves, in my books, at least an 85. Even if you think that style of whiskey is objectively worse, which I don't think you could legitimately make that claim, then, try and be a little objective here. So that I'm on a weird tangent here. I've obviously had 5 whiskies. So 4 whiskies, I can't even count. 4 whiskies and a Molson Canadian. There we go. This is the Impact player right now. Here, this is our referee. We have a referee. Do they have referees or do they have umpires? God, I know so little about this sport. I didn't realize how little I knew. I thought I was joking at the beginning of this. I really know very little about this sport. Oh well. I do know this is growing on me, and I do know that is slightly worrying. Very worrying. Anyway, Yeah. I think this is a solid... I think we're going to designate, because it was the first one picked, this is the captain. He's even got a little C, so he was a captain. So Mark Messier is the captain of the... What do we call this? The Bracebridge Brewers. I should have chosen something a little easier to say. The Bracebridge Brewers, the captain is Mark Messier. There we go. Okay, we've only got 2 left, so let's see if Google can learn a new trick. Hey Google, flip a coin. Heads, tails.
It landed on heads.
All right, so next up on the ice is Larry Robinson. Larry Robinson comes to us from the Big and Smooth style, and he does have a very luscious looking mustache in this. So, Big and Smooth all the way. It's 2 grain, it's 40%, and this is a 6-year-old. So this is the youngest one we've had today. Nothing wrong with that. Treat it right, put it in interesting good wood. 6-year-old Canadian whiskey can be fantastic. I've had some incredible 6-year-old Canadian whiskies. Let's see the wood types. Canadian, Richard, Bourbon, Rum, Port, and French Oak. That's a lot of wood. That is everything but the kitchen sink. If the kitchen sink were made of wood, it might be in here too. All right. Let's see what the internet can tell us a little bit of extra details about this. Tell us about this Robinson fellow. Swiss family Larry Robinson. Okay. Larry Robinson, a.k.a. Big Bird. Ah, he was on Sesame Street. Cool. During his heyday of the 1970s to 80s Montreal Canadiens, the hockey rink here is in reference to Larry's 6 Stanley Cup wins. This whiskey is 6 years old and has 6 different barrel types that went into the blend. The French oak was apparently included because he played in Quebec, although that seems a little tenuous. This relatively high amount of rye, 19% rye, reflects his jersey number, which I assume was 19. Yep, the back of the bottle says #19, or #19 as the kids say now. The relatively complex blend supposedly reflects Larry's intellectual and serious attention to detail, both in the game and in the blending process. So we have our center and we have our defenseman. I like that word, defenseman. It's much better than defender. Defenseman. Feels medieval. So this one, again, the 6 barrel types, Canadian, double charred, apparently. Double charred. Doesn't say that on here, does it? Oh, recharred. Ah, okay. So this is double charred, not just recharred. Which I guess recharred must be at least double, but could be triple. So we just refined it. It's only 1 rechar. Ex-bourbon, ex-rum, port, and French oak casks. All of the ingredients of this one were column distilled, and it is mainly corn with a significant amount of rye. So this is 19% rye. So the last time we saw those kind of numbers was with which one was the one? Oh, the Coffey, which I think is probably my favorite player of the Courtney Coopers. Yeah, the Coffey, which was a much smaller amount of rye. This is 7% rye. So, interesting. Maybe we'll have some skirmishes, some head-to-heads, some fisticuffs between the 2 straight-up rye and corn players. All right, I need a glass. Let's rip into this guy. That sounded like the intro video. That was beautiful. That was such a good glug. I wonder if the big names in whiskey actually manufacture their bottles to have a satisfying glug. Because that was a very, very satisfying glug. You did good work there, Wisers. Good work. All right. Here's to you, Mrs. Robinson, or Mr. Robinson. Wow. I've yet to have a whiskey tonight that has so much of a obvious punchy flavor that hit me right away. licorice. I straight up got licorice on that, like, without even having to search at all. That was just, I got slapped in the face with a big old branch of licorice. Is licorice on here? I hope licorice is on here. That's a great note. I don't know what subsection it would be under. I'm not seeing it anywhere. Brown sugar, baking spices, spicy clove. Huh. It might be on here, I just might not be able to spot it right away. But I feel like me staring at this for 3 minutes trying to find the word licorice is probably not very good television, so I'm just gonna continue. Yeah. Licorice, clove, black pepper, more licorice. More licorice. It's like salty Dutch licorice. It's not like this, wimpy, sugary, sweet kids licorice. This is proper licorice. This is proper, like, Dutch biker gang licorice. I just realised that doesn't mean anything to anyone. I was once accidentally inducted into a Flemish biker gang, and one of them gave me some really salty licorice, so that's the that's the missing piece of information into that reference. I say accidentally inducted. This is something I started on a random tangent when I was talking about gin the other day on one of these videos. I was in a bar in Bruges where they serve a lot of absinthe, and there's a certain amount of absinthe apparently that a person reaches when they pull out their wallet and say one for everyone in the bar. I did that once, and little to my knowledge, there was quite a few biker gang people in the bar, and they have this rule where if you buy a drink for everyone in the bar, and that includes at least 2 founding members of the biker gang, then you become an honorary member of the biker gang. So I accidentally became an honorary member of a Flemish biker gang that night, and I'm still on their email list. It's really cool. They're quite cute. They had this really hardcore sounding name, and I remember translating it with Google later on. It was translated to something like flammable lion or something. It was pretty neat. I'm sure they're very very nice people. There was only one member I ever met again, and he was a hilarious drunk guy called Krusty. I remember his name because Krusty the Clown, of course. Krusty was great. I like Krusty. I feel like they were a biker gang in the sense that they were a group of friends who had bikes, and not in the sense that they, hit people with chains. Krusty was lovely. He had this little Kawasaki Ninja. That's not a biker gang bike. That's just a person with a bike, surely. I'm trying to justify the fact that I'm apparently part of a biker gang. There's no getting around that. That's just something I've got to live with now, I guess. This is good whiskey. And Courtney Cooper's better watch out. The Bracebridge Brewers are coming for him. It's got a bitter orange, Amaro Chinotto Italian bitter orange thing going on there. That hits the spot. Ooh. That hits the spot very nicely. Licorice, bitter orange. These are all things that I look for in bourbons, and I'm often disappointed because I get them, but they're also generally overtaken with this huge hit of raw virgin oak. This is the best parts of some of my favorite bourbons without the tannics. Sorry for the mouth noises there. I know some people don't like mouth noises, so if you don't like mouth noises, don't go and watch Horst Looning's videos. You will not like them. If you don't mind mouth noises, do go watch Horst Looning's videos. They're very entertaining. Hot cinnamon. There's one thing that came up in the live chat a couple of days ago. Was the idea of getting me to review Fireball. I did say I would review Fireball, and I would even do a comparison video with Fireball and Jack Daniel's Fire for charity. So I'm gonna work on that and figure out a way to get some kind of charity drive donation thing set up on the website, so that if we reach a certain number of donations, I will sit here and do a straight-faced, legitimate review of both Fireball and Jack Daniel's Fire. As straight-faced as possible. Actually, no. I will guarantee straight-faced. And if I crack, I will just stop the video and start again. That is... that might take me a long time. But I will do it. This is just the length I'm willing to go to for you people. Yeah. Jesus. It's been a long day. Okay, so I don't need to ask Google for this one because there's only one bottle left. So the final member of the Bracebridge Brewers is none other than the great, assumedly. Never heard of him. Probably fantastic. Love his hairdo. Daryl Sittler? Daryl Sittler. He is very corn forward. I'm assuming that means he has a corny sense of humor. Maybe he likes dad jokes. I don't know what corn forward would possibly mean in terms of play style. Maybe he's a bit of a trickster. Maybe... No, I don't know. I have literally no idea what position. So I'm just going to make up a position. I think this guy is a... backstop. I mean, backstops don't exist in this sport, I'm very sure, because there's no wicket. Anyway, this is a well-rounded whiskey. It's 4 grains, 40%, 10 years old, corn forward, matured in Canadian and bourbon barrels. Beautiful. And Mr. Daryl Sittler is comprised of mainly corn, followed by 6% rye, 4% wheat, and 4% malted barley. So a very corn-heavy blend, but with 3 other ingredients in there, which should give it a nice little complex base with that sweetness. It's 10 years old. It's all column distilled, so nothing pot stilled at all in this one, with mostly used Canadian whiskey barrels and only some ex-bourbon. So, according to most people in Toronto, apparently Daryl Sittler is one of the most popular centres to ever play for the Maple Leafs. The main hockey link here is the age and grain proportions of this whiskey, both referring to the record-setting 10-point night for Daryl. The rye-wheat barley mix reflects the number of goals, 6, and assists, 4, in that 1976 game. That is just attention to detail there. Well done, Don Livermore. That is pulling numbers, pulling stats out of the air for that one. I love it. The overall style is said to be well-rounded whiskey, much like his famed playing style. So we have a problem. We have a crack in the works of our Eastern Conference team here, because we have 2 centers. But maybe that'll work. Maybe 2 centers is an interesting tactic for this 3-on-3 hockey game. Maybe it'll just make them more centered. Maybe we'll have a very zen team from Bracebridge. The Bracebridge Brewers are a very zen team. A very zen team indeed. Alrighty. Whiskey number 6. Oh, that came off straight away. I tried ever so hard to not make a noise there. I made a tiny whimper. I'm not sure if the microphone picked that up or not, but... Oh, such a glug. That is amazing glug. These bottles are very glug happy. All right. I'm gonna help reset the palate a little bit with a little water. Yeah, that's it's softer. It's a little bit more grainy, but it's still corn forward. It's actually a really good counterpoint to the last one. Yeah, it's less bold. Nice. Yeah. It's very pleasant. It feels very harmonious. I joked about having two centers, making them very centered, very zen. This is pretty zen. This is a very calm whiskey. Like, whiskey often gets this bad rap in certain parts of the world as being a spirit that makes people violent or frisky. No, this is a calm whiskey. This is a very, like, you drink a glass of this as you're watching the evening news at 10 o'clock and winding up, getting ready for bed. This is a very zen whiskey. God, who watches the evening news anymore, Adam? You don't even have a TV license. Like, I've got a TV, but like I don't have any way of having anything broadcasted. Where did that come from? That's the deep recesses of my memory. Maybe this somehow reminds me of home. Alright, so what flavors am I finding in the flavor wheel this time? It's very baked goodsy. It's kind of muffiny, pancakey, bready. Is there any bread in here? What unpronounceable chemical compound gives me bread? Spin the wheel. Find the bread. Potato. You know, it might be potato. It might not be bread. Yep. Cool. Bready cereal yeast apparently comes from wheat. This is apparently the only whiskey we've had today with wheat, so I'm going to give myself some brownie points for that one. I'm pretty happy with myself there. Wheat. I feel like I just won a game of roulette with the flavor wheel. Okay, so now I have to figure out whether the Eastern Conference or the Western Conference is taking the okay, what can we call it instead of the Stanley Cup? The Stan Rogers Cup. There we go. Perfect. And I won't forget, I will attempt at least to put the Stan Rogers song flying on after this for you guys to listen to, because it's a great track which most people will probably never have heard. It's a track all about hockey players getting chewed up and spat out by the system. Okay, I'm gonna have to really dial in my Canadian instincts here. I think I'm gonna have to down the rest of this Molson Canadian in order to try and figure out which hockey team is the winner. So hang on, won't take long. There's not much left. Boom. All right. Excuse me. Whew, that was a gassy beer. All right. I think the Bracebridge Brewers have it. I think this might well be a winning team. However, I am going to give... Nope. Yep. My official MVP to Paul Coffey of the losing team. I think he played a valiant game. I think he was probably the best player on the ice. But I think overall, the very centered zen Bracebridge Brewers took it home. I just think this trio of whiskies was slightly more interesting and balanced and well blended. And that's really what I look for in Canadian whiskies. I really want something which feels very balanced and well blended. I'm just repeating myself now. Apparently this is what happens when you down a can or half a can of Molson's Canadian. You repeat yourself a lot, both in a verbal and burping sense. So, thank you for joining me for this this bit of fun. We've had some very interesting drinking out loud episodes recently, of course, with the big outturn. We've got some good releases coming up as well, which I'll be taking slightly more seriously. But just because I've been having fun with this whiskey doesn't mean that this whiskey doesn't deserve to be treated seriously. In all honesty, this entire series of whiskey amazes me both with its concept, its genius idea of really tailoring that flavor profile to each hockey player's style. If you're into hockey, even just a little bit, this is just super cool. And it's a testament to it that a person who doesn't even understand hockey, never mind really have enough experience to form an actual opinion of hockey, can still enjoy these whiskies immensely. This is a great series of whiskies. 5 of these 6 are still available. We don't have the Keon anymore, which, sorry, no Dave Keon. But you can get the MVP, which is over here. You can get the MVP, my MVP, Paul Coffey, and you can get the winning team of Daryl Sittler, Larry Robinson, and Mark Messier, plus the one unpronounceable, even this guy. Those 5 whiskies are all available right now at strathliquor.com. We are still doing our $3 delivery direct to your doorstep 7 days a week if you're in downtown Victoria. If you are in the outskirts of Victoria, we're delivering to you 3 days a week, and we can have those to you pretty soon. If you're anywhere else in BC, we can ship it to you via Canada Post. And if you're not in BC, well, thank you very much for joining us. This video is very much tailored to our Dram Association members, but if you have joined us from anywhere in the world and you don't know what the Dram Association is, it's been a delight having you. It's, the more the merrier. We're very happy to have some lovely strangers along to these videos. Leave us a comment, let us know where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. But these whiskies are available right now. Regular price of $43.39, which is an absolute bargain in itself. But right now, you can get it for an incredible discount of $38.17 a bottle. All 5 the same price. We have 2 or 3 bottles left of each of them. Please help support the alumni charity. Please help support Canadian whiskey. As I've said many, many times, and I will repeat until people start listening to me, Canadians don't know how good their whiskey is. And all 6 of these are very, very good, well-crafted whiskies that deserve a place in your cabinet. In anyone who has an interest in Canadian whiskey or hockey, these are brilliant, brilliant whiskies. Even if you don't like hockey. Not that I'm saying I don't like hockey. As I said, I don't understand hockey. I'm willing to give it more of a chance if it will have me. I'm not breaking up with hockey. We're just on a break. We're separate ships in 2 different oceans, and maybe one day our paths will cross again. But yes, thank you very much for joining me for this rambling, incoherent video. I blame the Molson's Canadian for that, but I've had a lot of fun here. Let us know in the comments section, or shoot me an email if you have any requests of whiskies that you'd like to see coming up on this show. As much as I admittedly am enjoying, I'm having a lot of fun doing these Drinking Out Loud videos. I do miss all of you, and I'm hoping that at some point this year, God, I hope it's at some point this year, we can actually get together as a small group and have a dram. Like, I'm saying it right now, like, I know that the days of having, 200 people, 400 people in a room that's not going to happen anytime soon. The COVID-19 outbreak is a serious matter that we should all be very, very careful with. But I'm hoping that the situation improves enough that in the next couple of months we can maybe start doing 24 of us in a room and doing, as soon as we're allowed to have, it's safe to have, a couple of dozen people in a room, we will start doing in-person tastings again at the Strath. I can't wait to share some of the whiskies we have in the store with you in person. I can't wait to let you taste some of the whiskies that we've been having at these videos. Some of these bottles that I've been reviewing on these videos, we're actually going to be releasing at a very special tasting once we're allowed to. And I can't wait to see you all at the bar for 1621 when this is all over as well. But in the meantime, I really am having a wonderful time doing these videos and reading the comments section afterwards and joining in with the live chat as they go live at, well, not live, as they premiere, as apparently the official term in YouTube lingo, as they premiere at 7:30 on Friday nights and Sunday nights. It's my pub right now. Those 7:30 airings are my chance to actually have a conversation with a fellow human being about something that a hobby that we have in common. So please do continue to join in for those live chats. I really appreciate them, and I appreciate you guys. And I've had a lot of whiskey and beer tonight, so I'm going to go to sleep now. But you stay safe, and I'll see you on the next video. Slajivar. Nope, it's empty. Slajivar.
It was just like strapping them on and starting again. Coaching these kids to the top and calling them men. I was a third round pick in the NHL, and that's 3 years of living in hell and going up flying and going home dying. My life was over the boards and playing the game, and every day checking the papers and finding my name. And Dad would go crazy when the scouts would call. He'd tell me that I'd have it all, 99 of us trying, only one of us flying. And every kid over the boards listens for the sound. The roar of the crowd is their ticket for finally leaving this town. To be just one more hopeful in the junior A, dreaming of that miracle play and going up flying, going home dying. I tell them to think of the play and not of the fame. If they got any future at all, it's not in the game. 'Cause they'll be crippled and starting all over again, selling on commission, remembering when they were flying.